Yo, what's up guys, it's Grizz Games coming at you with some Bloons Tower Defense battles. I'll be bringing you some card battles gameplay. You know it's underrated and I'm gonna give it some attention. This will just be a video on the cell we'll be using in game, so no actual battles in this video, sorry. But now we got that bad news out the way, let's get a quick overview of the powers that we have unlocked and that we're going to be using. So for the bloom powers, we won't be using the bloom powers just because the playstyle that I have in card battles at the moment is more defensive, trying to go late game, and you'll see that in my decks. So for bloom powers, I've only got the tier 0 unlocked. It's gonna be a little slow getting those up there. But for the eco powers, I got tier 1s unlocked, so Salted Wounds and Copy Eco. Copy Eco, not too great for card battles in my opinion, because you really want to get off to a good start and you can't waste any time trying to copy eco. So Salted Wounds is one we'll be using just until maybe we get the improved eco boost, which is a bit more consistent, and then hopefully up to the super eco boost. So next up is the track powers. Currently using the monkey glue, very noobish I know, but trying to get to that lightning bolts not too far away, so hopefully we'll get that soon, and then from there straight up to the spike storm. After that, tower powers, using the range boost at the moment just because it goes quite well with some of the towers we'll be using, and you'll see that in a bit, but trying to get to the pop boost and eventually the damage boost, definitely the damage boost. So let's back out of that as well, and we'll just go into the card battles just to see the decks that we have. So at the moment I'm usually sticking between Yellow Stadium and White Wasteland just to practice the deck a little bit, but you know, after a warm-up game we'll jump into the Ceramic Crucible in a later video. So let's check out these decks. So you might be able to notice just from flicking through these 4 decks that the first 2 cards actually change, but the rest of the deck is the same for each one, and that is because the rest of the deck is the standard deck for me, and the first 2 cards I change just depending on the map. So deck 1 got 2 land towers, so obviously that's just for maps that don't have good or any water spots. Number 2 is got the wizard, the lightning bolt tower with the cannon ship. The cannon ship's quite good for those cheeky little water spots on the side, but if there's not too much water, then it's not really a deck you want to take. Then next up, if those cheeky little water spots are quite well placed and a reactor's quite good there, then this is the deck you want to take. And then next up we got the ballistic missile and reactor. So obviously this is just for a complete water map, something like Ice Flow, where you'll be using a lot of the ballistic missiles, a couple reactors, and the land spots just for some of the bigger cards really. So now let's take a closer look at the deck. So just running through the towers first, the attack sprayer, very good early game, quite a nice cleanup, as well as the lightning bolt with obviously the chain lightning ability on the lightning bolt itself. It's just amazing, it always helps out. Then we have the tax, which is great. As soon as your opponent hits over like 300, 350 eco, it's just good to use every time, because although you really want to try hold off for around 350, between 350 and 400, I don't mind using it a little earlier if I know that they don't have that, just because it does slow their progression down quite a bit. And I don't usually mind taking too much of a hit, because I'm trying to get to that late game, and if I can disrupt them early game, then I'm going to have an easier early game. Next up, Chain Lightning. It's a great card just to have in the little pocket, and just to put out when times are rough in the early game. Obviously late game, it's never needed. You're basically never going to want to play it, but since I'm trying to get to the early game for these last couple towers, it's a good card to get me there. Kidnap. I think Kidnap's a late game card. Others may disagree, but if you can disrupt the opponent's late game constantly, it's gonna get on their nerves. Like, they're gonna absolutely hate it, and it could cause them to make mistakes, and also they need a fast rotation to get the cards that you've kidnapped back out on the field. And next up, you'll see that I have 4 of the Dart Monkeys. These 4 right here, they're just so efficient. So the first and second one, you're not usually going to be placing them down as towers, but if need be, they're there, and they're good for the early game basically. The second 2 are definitely the ones you want to be placing down at the start. Great popping power, obviously because they're trip darts, and this one especially has very good range and can pop camo balloons as well. Next up is the Intense Magic Apprentice, which has the lead popping power and is very cheap, and also deals with group balloons quite well, so definitely want to be placing that down as much as you can. The Corrosive Glue, you're never really going to be placing this one or the Spike Factory down as towers. These are more just for the balloons, but we'll get onto that in a sec. Then you got the Semi-Automatic Rifle. This great camo and lead popping power, extremely fast, and you can place it in those little corners, those little sneaky corners, so the opponent should know that you have it, but they don't always, and they usually send some terrible rushes that just get obliterated by the semi-automatic rifle. Next up is the Balloon Jitsu. Now this is one of the cards, in fact the main card, that we're rotating to just spam on the field as much as possible late game. And obviously it's great against the Moab class balloons, and you know, its normal balloon popping power isn't too bad either. And last but not least is the Apache Dart Ship. This is just an easy place it, set it on pursuit. If you're a scrub like me, just set it on pursuit, let it do its thing. You know, you're not going to have any issues with it basically. Now onto the balloons part of everything. So Tax Sprayer also has a good balloons to send, and you know it's good because when you're trying to get late game eco up, the best thing to do is to send out group balloons, and hopefully not too many balloons either, so obviously late game, a green balloon, it's not really going to do anything. So you got to kind of look at the eco you'll get for the price and how many balloons it will send, because the more balloons it sends, the longer it's going to take to complete that order and for you to be able to put out another set of balloons. So that's why you may have noticed that on all of my balloons, except for the lightning bolt, just because the lightning bolt is so good as a tower, the balloons actually have grouped on all of the other ones, because that is just highly rated by me. You'll also notice that there are no real rush balloons around here. So you got the camo leads, but by round 14 they usually have a camo lead detection, so you shouldn't really expect too much from this. And regen black, again, it's not great. By round 11 they should be able to deal with regen blacks no problem. So the rush part of this deck is non-existent, and it is just to send out constant balloons, but not annoying ones, and mainly focuses just on eco. So if we take a look at a few of the other decks, again, cannon ship, group balloons, pink, very quick to come out. Third one, reactor, like the lightning bolt, it's just too good of a tower to like hate on the balloons for it. So camo regen lead, although it's good and it's grouped, it's round 14, not really expecting it to do too much unless you layer it in with everything else, and the natural balloons. And 4 is the only one where it actually has a rush. So these camo zebras on round 12 grouped as well, it can get pretty insane, and that's definitely a rush that you want to look out for if you are picking deck 4. Obviously these decks aren't the best, and there are a couple changes that I've been thinking about making, taking out, say, Spike Factory or Corrosive Glue, putting in something like the Sabotage Supply Lines, just for a bit better of a late game, and potentially a rush as well with the camo regen rainbows. But at the moment it does its job fine. And that brings me to the end of the video. So as I said before, this video was just an overview of the decks and powers, just to show the setup that we'll be using in game when we actually play some of these battles. And you know, if you enjoyed the video and you want to see these decks in action, just click the subscribe button, you know, you'll get notified. And you know, like the video if you do like it, and stick around for some more balloons battle action. Right, peace.